All right. Hopefully this works now. I've been having nothing but problems trying to record this. All right. So last night, went with Mets to see the Philly press premiere of MAXXXINE, the third in the Ty West X series, starting with X back in like 2021, 2022. And then followed up quickly with Pearl after that. Both of those I did reviews for on this channel. This was an anticipated movie for me. And I was excited to review it with Mets, who I had seen Pearl with, although I didn't do the review of Pearl with Mets. I did the review of Pearl with my friend Cammie at my old apartment. But we didn't record the review last night for this because we got done late, and then we wanted to eat, and then they wanted to stream, and I thought it was too late to stream, so we streamed anyway, and I was very low energy on that one, so I decided I got to get a MAXXXINE review out because part of getting the press review tickets was doing a review. So here I am doing a review. I'm still pretty low energy. Yeah, so going back, I've known about Ty West's work for a very, very long time, going back to him getting his name taken off of fucking Cabin Fever 2. So when X came out, it was a definite step up in prestige for him. It was an A24 movie. I've liked Mia Goth for a long time, going way back to like Lars von Trier's, is it Nymphomaniac, I think it was, with Shia LaBeouf. She was great in Cure for Wellness. People don't talk about Cure for Wellness a lot. That's a cool fucking flick. With the dude who was in Chronicle, who's like the sleepy-eyed boy from who played Harry Osborn as well. That's like a trippier Shutter Island almost. And I'm not a Shutter Island fan. Yeah, and then she's great in the Suspiria remake. Again, I prefer the remake to the original. I know that is blasphemous. But I was looking forward to this one. It has a lot of my favorite things all meld up in its guts. You've got the video nasty era. You've got the Satanic Panic era. It goes into the Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker stuff, 1980s pornography. The VHS era and the seedier 80s excess of California, which runs parallel to what we have in New York at that time. One of the people in the theater was like, "Oh, so it would have been so much better if they set it in New York at that time." And I was like, "No, because we've kind of seen that a bunch of times before." And I think that at this point in '85, I'm kind of trending towards the Giuliani Disneyfication of Times Square. It's not the 42nd Street that you would see in something like Midnight Cowboy or Nightmare in a Damaged Brain or the New York Ripper or stuff like that like really show New York to be just like a hellhole. This one was more akin to Live and Die in L.A., Brian De Palma's Body Double. There's even a scene in the club set to a Frankie Goes to Hollywood song, which was very reminiscent of Body Double. It's this version of Los Angeles. You have the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. It's sort of like if you pick up like a pretty rock and you look underneath of it and there's fucking worms and bugs and shit like that. This is kind of what you get out of this. So the style of this one shows the fact that there's very little substance in this movie. I think this is the weakest of the three X movies, where the first one is this great blend of Eaten Alive, Texas Chainsaw Massacre with something like the Farmer's Daughter, the porno movie and stuff like that. And it has this very A24 vibe to it, most because there's old people naked and having sex and stuff like that. A24 loves fucking old people fucking. And then you go into Pearl, which is a prequel that kind of came out of nowhere, and it's this Technicolor 1950s looking fever dream. And while there is a lot of elements of those two first movies that carry over into this, even the very first scene of this movie is this black and white film of Pearl as a little, not Pearl, of MAXXXINE as a little girl dancing, and her dance is echoed in Pearl's dance at the end of Pearl. There's a ton of callbacks in this movie, and it just echoes that echo throughout it. The way when they're on the back lot and there's the men dressed as the soldiers from World War One. There's a lot of references to like blondes. So there's just a lot of callbacks to this. Not just the fact that there's flashbacks that she has to Pearl in X, and they they give her the tape of the porno movie they were making at the Texas porn star massacre thing that Met's in the theaters like, fuck, now I can't use that title. All of the elements here are lined up to work. To have these murders taking place to run parallel to Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, so it's covering it up and playing into the media's fear of the satanic panic. To have her on, in a 1980s slasher movie, because she's a porn star, it's generating buzz for the religious right and all this kind of stuff, and the ire that it raises. They even show a clip of Dee Snider going before Congress talking about ratings of music and stuff like that. So there's like all the elements that I really like here, and all the things that should work. Whereas them using all of these external elements to flush her out, killing her friends, and the detectives that are on the case that think she's involved with it. There's a bit of like a Vice Squad style vibe to it as well, which I fucking love that movie. Wings Hauser as Ramrod is one of the most terrifying villains in movie history. But it's just like the style it wears off after a while. Because there are some great scenes. There's a great scene where they go into the peep show, and the way that the camera slides in and is very giallo, and the black gloved killer, and she's on the other side of the glass, and this very giallo style lighting, and he's gripping onto the wood, and all that stuff works fantastic, along with Tyler Bates' score. All of that flows very well together, and the set design and the look of 1985 Los Angeles and all, but it's just something about this movie is disconnected for me, and that's a bummer, man, because I was really looking forward to this. And again, all of the elements are there to make something I was like, oh, this is made for me, but because the kills are there. You've got a close-up of Buster Keaton's testicles getting smashed by stiletto heels. You've got eyeball slashings. You've got head explosions. You've got Gustavo Frayne crushing a homeboy in a car crusher and all that kind of shit, and dogs eating brains. All of those video nasty elements are there, but everyone seems like they're just speeding it ahead, and I thought maybe that's a stylistic choice, because the director, his editing is so signature. There is such a reason for everything that I thought maybe characteristics wise and people where they just come and go, and a lot of things happen off screen, they just pop onto screen for things, and it's just like, okay, maybe it has something to do with that era, the cocaine, that's speeding everything up. She's got a big fucking ceramic duck that my grandmother used to have that had cookies in it, and you take the top off, but it's just full of cocaine. Everything's just speeding towards the end, but in doing that, if it is a stylistic choice, it's at the expense of everything. It's not hard to figure out in the whodunit aspect who the killer was, and while logistically that works and it hangs together, when you do eventually get to that Eyes Wide Shut, Lost Highway, Under the Silver Lake style ending, where, it makes sense who those people are. They were the same people who were out protesting at the studio and stuff like that. It's fine. They set it up and they paid it off. But it's so abrupt. And then who the killer is, that's set up in the very first scene. But they seem like they're in a completely different movie than everyone else. They're dialed to fucking 13. Whereas the last person that we had in anything like that was Kevin Bacon, who I think is the best actor, the best character in the movie. He's dressed exactly like Jack Nicholson's character in Chinatown, down to the fucking busted ass nose. But again, on the nose is a lot of this shit, He's dialed up. He's chewing the scenery. He's great. But then you have all these other people who are great character actors who I just feel like are just kind of like, they're all kind of sleepwalking. Nobody's given enough to do, or if they are given a beat, it's sped through. And now, and that, you know, it set it in New York City in 1981 or something like that, 1982, and you could speed it up because of the New York Minute. Everything has to go, go, go. But in something like this, I feel like if we're going for that era of excess in California and Hollywood at that time, it would be a bit more showy, you know, and you know, the killer's motive of drawing out Maxine by having her friends get invited to these House in the Hill parties and then die, and their bodies are being used as to an excuse to make the media focus on the Night Stalker and not see that her past is catching up with her. She gets an evidence tape from, you know, the Texas thing, like I said, that happened in X, and, you know, she's lured out into this story at the expense of, you know, like, she can be saved. She fell to sin and all this kind of stuff in Hollywood, and she could be saved, and all these people that are essentially like a cult. But in the end, it getting to that point, we're just speeding through it, and as you go, you're like, okay, well, that it makes sense, but really, this is how we're gonna do it. And then we get to the big fucking cartoon character villain at the end, not literally a cartoon character, but he's playing it broad. And if everybody else played things a bit more broad or a bit more quirky or like one foot off the merry-go-round, I think that he wouldn't have stuck out so much, and things would have gelled a little bit better. One of the biggest problems with the movie is Maxine herself. She's not really a character. She's kind of just, things just happen to her, you know? You have the director, like, they go to the Psycho House, they're on the back lot, and the director made this video nasty, and she wants to show that she's more than just a slasher director and a woman in Hollywood and all this kind of stuff. She can be more than that. But really all she does is just drop heavy-handed exposition on Maxine. It's like, you know, they're standing in front of the Psycho House, and she's talking about America never suspected, you know, an old woman as the killer and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, because we're not looking at ourselves. And also like, okay, yeah, because Mia Goth was also Pearl in X, and yes, that's the plot. It's like, it's all right there. It's all superficial. It's all, you know, on the surface of everything. Yeah, like, again, every time we see her, it's like, you need to keep your eye on the ball. Anything in your life that's distracting you right now, you need to squash it. She's just like, it's dangerous to go alone. Here, take this, you know? And it's just like characters like that are just there to say the obvious thing so that we can keep going. You have like the wife, Woody Harrelson's wife from True Detective season 1. She's been in a million other things. The big Italian dude who was in he was in Ant-Man. He was Judy Greer's husband in that one. Scott Lang's ex-wife. You know, those guys. He's a former actor, and he tries to play tough cop, and she just like, you silly, you know. I don't know. It just felt like these characters that in a De Palma movie, in a Michael Mann movie, something like that. These other California set neo-noirs would have a bit more quirk to them. And Mia Goth was very subdued, especially at this point where she should be in her career, where we're getting into that, I'm 30-something years old, and you know, she says, like, being in hardcore films, you age like bread, not wine. I like that. And to start it off with her dad in the flashback scene being like, you got to do whatever it takes. Well, in this one, she's not really cunning. She's not really abrasive and you know, fierce with anything. Like, she defends herself from a dude trying to rape her in an alley, and then beyond that, she's just kind of passive through good portions of it. And at no point does her acting ever stand out as more than just being like blank, you know. And that bothered me, especially coming off of the heights we had with the other two, you know. And those ones were very stylistic as well, but there was a lot of substance in them as well. And this one just felt like something was missing. And I think he was more interested in making this California giallo than he was in making that type of film, you know. And you know, you could talk about how each one represents a different age in cinema, but even at that point, you know, aside from the gore in this and the little bits of nudity and stuff like that, I don't feel that it really represented that era of 1980s Southern California filmmaking. You look at Vice Squad, you look at Body Double, you know, any of these type of movies, and there is something, there's more teeth there than we got in this one. So this is the weakest of the three. I still say you should go check it out, especially if you like the other one, to see how this trilogy ends. When you get to like the weird, like Wayne's World, like let's try the happy ending. I'm like, okay, we're off in the weeds here now, and I found myself bored by chunks of it once we get into the actual mystery of it all. And while there are mirrors to scenes in the last one and all these parallels and stuff like that, it just left me kind of bored and kind of feeling flat. And once you get past the Tyler Bates score and some of the beautiful cinematography and the designs of like the peep show building and all that kind of stuff, there wasn't enough of it to keep me going. And in that, I don't know. I don't know. It didn't do it for me. And I guess I probably would have preferred if Metz and I recorded this last night, because then we could bounce off each other and maybe there's something that they saw in it that I didn't see in it. But after the first viewing, going in pretty hyped too, and that might be my own fault, is to go in with a sense of excitement for something that maybe you overhyped it. But I did the same thing with Pearl, and Pearl exceeded all of my expectations. And it's not on the part of the cinematography, the score, the costumes, anything like that. It's just the story wasn't there and the acting really wasn't there. And again, it just felt like big chunks of this thing are missing. But maybe it's me. Maybe I missed the point. So that's it. That's my review of MAXXXINE. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I need to go see it again and I missed something. But it very much just left me cold. And that's a bummer, man. I'm excited for Longlegs. I want to check that one out next. But that one's also getting a ton of hype. But I like Oz Perkins, talking about Psycho. That's Anthony Perkins' son. He also directed Gretel and Hansel, which I thought was absolutely beautiful. But yeah, that's it. MAXXXINE.